Thank you for inviting me to talk to you about one of my favourite topics, innovation in nursing and midwifery. My name is Lisa Rickers, and I'm a specialist nurse and founder of the iCrowd, which has been created to support and empower innovation for nurses and midwives. As you are aware, we've seen an explosion in healthcare innovation, particularly during the COVID-19 pandemic, and seen the adoption of digital solutions at a pace we've not seen previously. We want to see a greater representation of nurses and midwives be included in innovation and to see greater opportunities for all. This first session is an introduction into innovation, and we're going to talk about the difference between innovation, invention, and quality improvement. There are a number of different types of innovation, and we're going to discuss these and look at some examples of companies using these types of innovation. The skills we use to take our innovation forward may differ, depending if you're planning to set up your own business or if you're using innovation in a company, organisation that you work for. Entrepreneurship will be discussed in greater detail later in a separate video, but an awareness of this can help you make some early decisions depending on what you would like to do with your innovation. Finally, we'll discuss if there is an art to innovation, what it is, and how we can develop it. Innovation is often attached to many other activities, such as research and innovation, transformation and innovation, or it's loosely defined as quality improvement. This can often mean it's not given as much weight within organisation. It doesn't have a separate budget and can be seen as an afterthought. However, innovation has many benefits for organisation, including increasing revenue by creating new products or services. It can reduce expenses by innovating new procedures or processes, and it can also provide a competitive edge and distinguish you from others in the marketplace. New products and services can also attract new customers, and it can also help to attain and retain talent in an organisation, as well as improve performance. A culture of innovation can act as a contagion for creative ideas, and it can also then attract further funding and investment. There are often different interpretations of innovation, but I prefer a simple definition, such as a successful implementation of creative ideas or the introduction of something new or a new way of doing something. When we try to look at developing something new, it's a good idea, as Tim Castell mentions, that this creates value. Innovation isn't new in nursing, and a good early example of innovation is Anita Dorr, who was the first nurse who created the crash trolley. An invention can be innovative, but is slightly different in that an invention is the creation of something which did not previously exist. An example of a nursing invention is Bessie Blount Griffin, who in 1940 invented the feeding tube. Most healthcare trusts have invested in a methodology and training around quality improvement in order to promote a systematic process to improve patient care and safety. Not all quality improvements are innovations, but the methodology can be used to test if a new product or a new service is an improvement. A nursing example of quality improvement is Florence Nightingale, who improved hygiene measures which reduced mortality rates of soldiers during the Crimean War. We often use the words inventive or innovative interchangeably, but they often require a slightly different skill set and different routes to commercialization. A further differentiation is that we often see innovations being patented, which protects the product from being copied within a geographical location without the owner's permission. To fulfill a patent, the product must be new or seen as new technology, or it must be a novel use of technology. It must have an inventive step, or be a new process, or an inventive improvement on an existing product. And finally, it must be feasible to manufacture. If you do have an invention that you think is original, it's a good first step to do a patent search first. It can be quite costly and take a number of years typically if you go to get a patent. It tends to cost around £4,000 and it can take up to 5 years. Once granted though, you have a monopoly over your invention for 20 years. And if you've ever watched Dragon's Den or Shark Tank, you'll be aware that something which is new, without a patent, raises eyebrows and concerns from investors. Equally, not everything that is new will have value commercially, so do get some advice before proceeding. A company called Innovate Design can offer free confidential advice on an idea and how you should progress with it. There are many different types of innovation. So it could be a product or a service. So a product is tangible, whereas services aren't. We've seen a great deal of innovation in this category during COVID-19, and it's often the most common form of innovation. An example could include the improved version of Bluetooth headphones compared to wired headphones. An example of a service improvement could be Uber Eats, which has used its brand Uber to enter into new markets. Innovation could also be a new business model or an existing business model used in a new market. It can often be more riskier, and a good example of this is Spotify, which took the digital music business in a different direction with its streaming model. Technology involves either something which is new or an improvement in technology, such as electric cars or self-service kiosks in supermarkets to help reduce waiting times and lower costs. And finally, innovation could be a new market, or it could disrupt an old market with the aim to improve market share. So an example of this may be ski poles, which have been marketed for Nordic walking outside the ski season. And this has created an opportunity to increase market share. Another way of classifying innovation is by the effects on the market and how it uses technology. Incremental innovation is probably the most popular, with a gradual and continuous improvement on existing products and services. Products may be made smaller or improved. So incremental innovation, it doesn't create new markets or disrupt markets, and new technology is rarely introduced. An example of this is the development of TVs, which have more recently moved from the LEDs to the new OLED TV. So put simply, it's often low risk, there tends to be less rewards, and it has little long-term advantage. Sustaining innovation could be a product or services which have been improved with iterations to help improve their market share, but it doesn't use disruptive technology. An example of this is the iPhone, whereby the new version of the product appeals to the same customer segments who are willing to pay for a newer, slightly better version of the same product. It works as people are invested in the brand or the product, but the products need to have a good market share and resources to operate in this way. Another type of innovations is called radical innovation. It's rarer, but uses revolutionary technology and/or a new business model. It tends to solve global problems and transforms markets. The personal computer and the internet are examples of radical innovation. They have transformed the way the entire world functions, and we can see this in the health arena, where we're seeing radical innovation in the form of robotics, AI, genome sequencing, and blockchain. Because it's very different, there can be initial resistance, and it often requires time and technological development before they are ready for mainstream markets. So again, put simply, it's a medium to high risk strategy, potentially will give you higher returns. Gives you a longer term advantage, and it tends to look beyond the customer requirements. Disruptive innovation creates a new value network which disrupts an existing or a new market. They can be high risk ventures, but the growth opportunity can be huge if you get it right. An example of this is Netflix, who initially offered DVDs via mail, but it didn't reach mainstream or disrupt Blockbuster's customer segment until it offered its web streaming service. Now there are many alternatives to Netflix, and this model has become the norm. So often radical and disruptive innovations can be called breakthrough innovations, which demolish or replace an existing industry, such as travel websites have almost eliminated most human travel agents. So again, it can be high risk, high potential returns, market defining, and it looks beyond the industry boundaries. When you have an idea, it's worthwhile to think about how you would like to progress this and what commercialization route you'd like to take. This may include an analysis of how comfortable you are with risk and what rewards you're looking to achieve. We often classify these as an entrepreneur or an intrapreneur, depending if you're planning to do this outside of the organization or within the organization that you work in. There are more risks involved with the entrepreneur route. Whilst you have all the rewards obtained in your venture, you also take all the risk. It often requires that you use your own money and resources. A benefit of this route is that you have the freedom to make these decisions, but you'll need a lot of drive and passion to sustain the work required to take this forward. You tend to have to acquire skills, be the master of lots of different roles in the initial stages. The other thing to think about is personalizing the risk, because this can often change the perception and your actions, such as what's described by the prospect theory, which suggests when faced with a choice, people prefer to avoid losses rather than accept risks to make gains. So in short, evaluate the risks versus the rewards carefully. As an entrepreneur, you will use your employees' money and resources as part of your role. The risk is lower as you're not using your own money and you have to have access to other employees to utilize their skills. Decisions can be shared, but you'll have less freedom to develop your idea. Depending on what your innovation, one method may be better than the other. You may not have the resources and skills to take your idea forward, but be mindful that if your idea was developed through your paid work, that your organization may hold the intellectual property rights for your idea, which may limit your options. Entrepreneurship skills will also be discussed in further details within this course. Having an art for innovation is often talked about, but what do we mean by this? What is it? Deborah Kane, an innovation expert, describes great innovators as being able to make connections between seemingly unrelated observations to uncover unique insights. The following tips have been used to help us to see that innovation is an art, and it's not just about the science and business. When we focus on change, we want to make meaning. When something has meaning, it will help our focus to be aligned to the outcomes you want to see. Both Google and Apple focused on changing the world and not just on making money. A mantra is also an art. It's a way of life that needs to be repeated again and again. Our mantra at the iCrowd is reimagining our future. It's what we dream of, it's what we talk of, and it's what we are doing. There can be something spiritual about a mantra, Its repetition is a way of making it come true, and it helps your team and your customers connect. You can't aim for perfection when innovating, or you will just stagnate. So be crappy. Innovation is the art of failing without losing motivation. See failing and iteration as an important part of innovation. Behind every success is hundreds and hundreds of failures, and it's how we learn. Don't be afraid of being niche or polarizing people. If you try to please everyone, you'll please no one. So don't be afraid of niche markets or polarizing opinion. Most of the successful digital apps are in niche markets because they're more likely to deliver a personalized approach to the problem. Bringing in new innovation to large crowded markets is incredibly difficult. In a niche environment, there is often shared expectations, an opportunity for stakeholder interaction, and the necessary resources for experimentation. This is just a brief introduction to innovation. We have more content around this, and please do provide us feedback so we can deliver the content that's going to be the most useful for you. These are my contact details, so please do connect. Please do come and join us at the Out Crowd. We'd love to see you.